I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I mean, that's, and I don't use that term lightly, okay? If Bibi Netanyahu does something I don't like, and if I criticize it, am I like a bad Christian? Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it.
आपने सब यारो वेलकम करे आसी আজি दुला भिडियो दे माबिंगे कुंदो जा एक दिन दु दिन दे इंटरनेट सोशल मीडिया दुनिया पूरा दे इतुला कंस्पिरेसी थ्योरी बिशी बियारा फैलाइसे चार्ली कर्क के मोराई दिया दे इजराइल लगा हाथ आसे वना इतु लगा हकीकत होसा की आसे इतु माबिंगे वीडियो बुलासे तो पहिला चार्ली कर्क ब्रा इजराइल ओदे किमान सपोर्ट करे आसे इजराइल के मोरम करे आसे इतु देबरा शुरू करबो आरो इजराइल के भी ताई बिशी डिफेंड करना आहा लगा आसे हामास आरो इजरायली आर्मी दाखान गाजा दे लड़ाई करा लगा ओपर देबी ओपन डिबेट खान देबी आरो चार्ली कर्क ब्रा जूस अगेंस्ट स्पेशली सब जूस ना बोले भी जूस लगा डोनर्स आन गुम्बा जूस अमेरिकन्स खान अगेंस्ट दाबरा आवाज उठा लेबे आसी इवन इजरायली प्राइम मिनिस्टर बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू लगा अगेंस्ट देबी ताई गोवा लगा आसी इजरायली आर्मी इजराइल अगेंस्ट देबी गोवा लगा आसी होले भी इदु सब दे दाइब्रा इजराइल अगेंस्ट दे गोवा लगा भी की कोशे सब तो ले होसा थाई क्या लगा कोशे इजराइल के सपोर्ट गोवा लगा भी बाइबल लगा क्रिश्चियन सब ताई सपोर्ट कर दाइसे तो moi इतु दुटा लगा साइड भी आपने ये दिखाबो वीडियो हम भी आरो कोइ दिबो केले उस बोले इंटरनेट दे सोशल मीडिया दे मानवरा बिशी मिशी फैलाइसे थ्योरी फैलाइसे कंस्पिरेसी थ्योरी की लास्ट वाले ताई मुरी बोले फाले दोले इजराइल अगेंस्ट दे कथा गोवा शुरू करिसे चार्ली कर्क ब्रा इतु कारणी तागे मोराइ दिसे इजराइल ब्रा कोना पहिला इजराइल के सपोर्ट गुदाइसे आरो इजराइल अगेंस्ट दे जा इजराइल के क्वेश्चन करा शुरू करनि मिले तागे इजराइल ब्राइ मोराइ दिसे होना होले भी तो सब मिशा আছে इजरायली प्राइम मिनिस्टर बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू खुद आइना इदु ओवर दे क्लैरिफिकेशन देबोले लागिसे इदु भी मोबाबिंगे वीडियो क्लिप आगे दे जाना दिखाइ देबो आरो इदुला वीडियो लास्ट वाले मोबाबिंगे इंपोर्टेंट एकटा कथा कबले आसे तो आपने लास्ट तक हुनि दिले भालो हो तो ले पहिला चार्ली कर्क ब्रा किनेगा इजराइल के डिफेंड गुदाइसे सपोर्ट गुदाइसे तादेब्रा शुरू करबो हामास आरो इजरायली आर्मी ताखान गाजा दे लड़ाई करा लगा ओपर दे बिशी ओपन डिबेट खान दे गुदाइसे आरो चार्ली कर्क लोदिबी बिशी चैलेंज गुदाइसे होले दाब्रा होताय इजराइल लोदे सपोर्ट गुदाइसे डिफेंड गुदाइसे किले उछले अक्टोबर 7 दे पहिला हामास ब्रा इजराइल लोदे टेररिस्ट अटैक करिसे आरो ताइला पॉइंट दु थाइसे हामास ब्रा इजरायली आर्मी खान के टारगेट करा ना होई होले भी टेररिस्ट अटैक दे सिविलियंस खान के अटैक करिसे कावर्ड दाखान दोले तारबो काना से दोनी आर्मी के ना पारे निमिदे सिविलियंस खान के 1000 ओवर मानु के मराइ दिसे आरो 200 ओवर मानु ओथाइना लुइ जाइसे हॉस्टेजेस कोइ तो इतु निशना गुरिया बिसे दे इजराइल दोले जब बोई बोले एक्सपेक्ट गुरासे जब बोई भी क्वासे इना तारा गुहाब्रा दे चैलेंज गुरासे इतु खान भी ताइ हुदि थाइसे आरो ताइब्रा एकदा मो आबिगे वीडियो क्लिप भी दिखाबो तारि भी हुदि आसे एकजो मानबा ताइ लोदे इतु ओवर दे हुदि दामदे दो जुदि इजराइल आर्मी खामब्रा इजराइल खामब्रा बंदूक छारि दिसे कोले इजराइल दोले की होबो हामास हमरा की करबो इतु निशना हुदि आसे तो ऑब्वियसली पैलेस्टाइनियंस खामब्रा इजराइल के कब्जा गुरलो हामास हमरा कब्जा गुरलो आरो हामास लगा मकसद दो क्वांशना कब्जा गुरलो ला मकसद आसे तो इतु निशना गुरबो ना बस आरो कोद इतु डिबेट को मानरो दोले वासे मुस्लिम ब्रा दोले पीसफुली टेक ओवर गुरबो ना कुमी निशना ना गुरबो दुश्मन ब्रा भी आपला बोसे आपला खोर छिनी लोले कब्जा गुरलो ले हे आसे बोले जब आहिना ओथा लोले ना अपनी ब्रा रेजिस्ट गुरबो तो इतु तो ले किदे पीसफुली ना होले भी इतु निशना गोयसे Charlie Kirk bra hude ke chap diule na par
If Israel laid down all of their weapons and said our military is no more, what would happen?
At this point in time, I don't believe they would come to a two-state solution after everything that's gone on.
No, that wasn't the question. If Israel disbanded its military,
yes,
what would happen?
The Palestinians would take over, but they would let the Jews...
okay.
Listen, not forcefully. This is how they operate. This is how Muslims operate Islamically. They let them live under them in jizya. They tax them and they let them live, and they take that tax and give it back to them. How do you think the Ottoman Empire worked and lasted 600 years? How do you think the Golden Age of Islam lasted and it lasted for 300 years? Because this is history.
So, no, I just want to make sure I understand. So, they would just take over mostly peacefully?
No, most definitely peacefully, because that's what...
Can you show me an example of Jews living peacefully under Islamic rule?
Most definitely.
Where?
When the Hamas had Israeli captives. Have you seen the
Israeli captives they killed?
They're not killed.
There was a 9-month-old baby that just got returned home as a corpse. by Hamas.
Aru kwanshna moi ekta duita video clip hi dikhai ase holebi bishi par repeated same similar idun sha debate hola lagai moi apni important idu apne channel duwa lagai koi ase dikhai ase na hole idu sob dikhai thakile bishi video lamba ho jabo to tare bi dai koi ase 1000 ra over manu ye morai dise aru 200 over manu ye othai lui jaise Israel ra kile chawap na dibo chawap dibo le ase aru koi ase civilians kan muria dole Gaza de itu bishi unfortunate ase bajambi mile ase aru civilians kan bishi morase holebi itu Hamas kan laga kam nimide tai laga manu muri ase na ase aru khud itu Palestinians kan bra Hamas kan ge elect kurse na wase Gaza laga government banai dise tamra control gole parigo na guri dise to civilians kan bra hi elect kurse Hamas ke dana leader tangi lead gole dibo na aru idom bra hi tai laga civilians ke hisab na kalat kam guri na itu laga nadija pai ase na wase aru debate grohan lodi bi hudi ase to thik ase 1000 over manu morai dise terrorist attack guriche Israel logode aru 200 over othai lui jase Israel bai ki kurbo lage itu kwase Israel bai kina kurbo lage moi kobi na boy kun bi kobo na ulta hi kobo aru itu amra dole October 7 la do gwahi na boy October 7 de 1000 over Israeli civilians age morai dia 200 over Hamas amra othai lui ja itu to charibi holibi Gaza de kile muri ase Gaza de kile civilian ka muri ase itu hudi ase taibra kwase itu to le hoy bishi unfortunate ase holebi Hamas kamra hospitals kan schools kan civilian la khor phitore than camp kan banana tunnel kan chinda jwala china banana boise to itwange ate kwaram de civilians kan bi muri lagi ase aro Hamas kan do le uniform na thale civilian nishina than ek kure do idun nishina de bi bishi civilian kan bi aro Hamas kan garne muri ase itwan nishina was aro kwase Israel ni le shibai ni Hamas ke luina lare gwa dole sobse diktar ase kile Hamas an uniform na thale civilian nishina ek kura nimide ina kwase to kundu civilian ase kundu deres ase itu figure out gole bishi problem tido ane hoy civilian khan Gaza de muria paja khan muria do bishi global be unfortunate lagase ole bi do Hamas khan bra hi ase Hamas khan nimide hi ase ina daira dole defend good haise
Of Hamas using hospitals, schools, and military installations layered with civilians. In fact, IDF goes to such great extent when the do you understand?
Okay.
So let me just ask you, how do you think Israel should have responded?
Can I ask you
1,300 people die. How should Israel respond?
Can I ask you something? Because you've got your chance. Can I talk to you?
Answer it. How should Israel respond? 1,300 civilians killed. How should Israel respond?
Kirk, Mr. Kirk, you had your chance to talk. Can I ask you something?
Okay, no answer.
Are you okay with kids dying? Yeah.
No,
Okay,
every
are you
kid
okay with
dying
that?
is a tragedy,
Okay.
of course.
Okay, right? So then again, Israelis are killing the kids. Yes or no?
It's collateral damage in a war, of course.
Okay.
America, we killed tens of thousands of kids in World War II unintentionally.
For the one
It's what
person that
happens.
dies, it's okay to kill 10 kids. Is basically what you're saying.
That's actually not what's happening at all.
That is because you're blaming on October 7th. What
Again,
happened is bad.
every human life is a tragedy. You must understand, in war, of which Hamas invited upon themselves. Hamas basically said, we're going to go invite and provoke you, Israel, and then they're complaining that Israel is better at war than them. That's what's happening.
Killing kids is not better at war.
Okay,
that's
again,
basically what's happening.
to
It's not
understand
okay.
the military context of what's happening in Gaza, it is a complete wasteland. Understand, the combatants of
pretty good at
Hamas,
arguing, man.
the
I'll give you that. You're good
combatants
there.
of Hamas, they're indistinguishable to that of civilians. They don't use the actual rules of engagement. They don't wear uniforms. IDF wears uniforms. No one in Hamas wears uniform. That's not correct. They don't wear uniforms. They disguise themselves as civilians. They'll do bombing all the time against IDF. This is the hardest war that any military has ever had to fight in the modern context.
Okay.
And spare me the nitpicking of the Western world saying,
You're
oh, well,
nitpicking for October 7th. You can't talk about nitpicking.
here's a moral difference. You know the moral difference? October
Just that
7th.
one little thing. that
Little
was bad.
thing.
Okay, look. What?
October 7th was a little thing.
What happened was bad, yes.
It was unspeakably
bad.
evil. You know why?
Okay, it was bad.
Because
Is killing
number one,
babies
it was not in a theater of war. Number two, they didn't go after military targets. This is how cowardly Hamas is. They didn't go after Israel military
Do you think
bases.
I agree with Hamas?
No, I'm not saying that, but understand the moral difference.
What I'm with is the Palestinians and the fact that there's kids dying, there's people dying.
I don't like kids dying. But you know
Exactly.
who's responsible
So
for the
we're
kids
agreeing.
dying? Hamas is responsible for the kids dying, not Israel.
And Israel.
Hamas is
And
responsible
Israel.
for their own kids dying.
Okay.
They provoked
Okay.
Israel.
Can I
Israel
ask you another
responds.
question?
Ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy? believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children in a futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but
It's not a point, it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish, I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War, on Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded. There is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Isn't that the morality of a child?
Well, hold on. It's interesting you say that, because a child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
Dublin video dikhishe hunishe taibra kinega Israel ge defend kuri thakishe aro Israel ge support kuri thakishe. Itia moi taibra Israel against the kwa aro taibra question hudia kan laubore koi dibo aro video kan bi dikai dibo phalbra sabi apne bi. Tole তাই কদলে একটা বি উল্টা কোয়ালা নাই ইসরায়েল কে কি সাপোর্ট করছে দিবি রাইটলি সাপোর্ট করছে ইসরায়েল এগেইনস্ট তাই ডাউটস তাগিয়া কোশ্চেন হুদিয়া ইতুবি রাইট হি তাইছে একটা দিবি তাই কালা থাকি নাই তাইলা পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ হিসাব দি হলি মানুরাহি ইদু ম্যানিপুলেট করনা ইডিয়া কনস্পিরেসি থিওরি ফেলা লাগাছে দুলে দাইবরা একটা পডকাস্ট দে কইছে কুন্দু অক্টোবর 7 দে টেররিস্ট অ্যাটাক করছে ইসরায়েল দে Choi khanda nishna hwabjide response disha was Israel Defense Forces ambra aru wansha hoi Israel Defense Forces wala lapses thagya bishikala hwa bishin nam kami phela idon labi ma binge goide sem hun divide ablen news follow ambra janabo to taibra wase itu aru there samra dole Jews kan ye morai dia laga live jaisha was YouTube kan de social media de live kan jai dagish to Choi khanda najrina poishina gi ina was itia tabi tai doubt ase wi kile taibra wase moi Israel de bishi bar jashe Tade walls kan fortress kan gudo larai guradam de ina mon wall kan banai the idun chai porda ase to choi kanda tak Israel army kan bra Israel government bra jane na gi Jews kan gi iman morai dia se koina dere sambra inia ta bra hudese aru wase ajibi moi biswas kro na bri iman deri lagia response kro le Israeli army aru iman Jews kan gi morai dia le dia ta bra wase Israel devra Jerusalem devra Gaza border de jawle bi helicopter nishina bra luina jaise bole 45-50 minutes hi lage to Israel government aru Israeli army kan ki puri thaise Jews kan iman dere samra morai dia dam de aru live stream kan bi puri thaise ki puri thaise iman dere kile tan respond dibo pare nai itia takbi moi bujowa na pare ina kose choi kanda lage du bishi deri hoise to government de kumba manubra ikuna hoi morawole dibi question ai ki action nalbi gana question ai rukhashana ki ina hudese bishi dangor question holi bi du valid question hudese dar batala point of view hesab de kile iman deri lagise Israel army hamra response kuru bole deres hamra Jews ang ye morai dia dam de aro live stream bi guru guna moradam de kile jeli response kora nai kile jeli tahan punjibo pare nai idu ekta festival attack gurse apni sob jana ase itu hudi ase dudibi taibra rightly hi question gurse tare ek taibra misha kwa laga nai.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country is a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier. Right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate non-conspiracy question.
Aro abnan video de hunishe taibra clearly koise moi Israeli government military intelligence Israeli PM logo de accuse kora khang dia na hoi hulibi itu moi laga hesab te buchibo na pare ko laga itu doubt ase moi buchibo na bare biswas ko na bare choi khanda gile lagiche itu ko ase aro Israel ra dole Gaza dole ethnic cleansing grobole bhabana ase mandate ase inabi ko ase itu bi tai hosai ko ase aro itu dole khud Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ra bi ko ase aro Donald Trump ra bi ko laga ase Kirk bra ko dole ki 2.5 million Gazans kan Gaza de thagya civilians kan dole khud itu dole Donald Trump ra bi ko she ki dusra African countries kan de olai di bole lui jai di bole to idu taibra ko she idu bi hosai ko she aro Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against the protest gora idu Israel de itu la obodi bi tai ko ase do obviously itu bi dunia sobra dikhi ase moi bi apni game hundi bi hotai update di thai apni bi dekhi Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against the protest gora lakh manu dak bi Tel Aviv de jama gona protest kore to itu sob tole Kirk bra ko dole thagya laga hi koise aro taibra itu Israel ge support galo bode ekta video de bi tai clarification dishi ki taibra Israel ge support grase ishor bra goise Bible bra ko la sabde Israel ge tai support grase wali bi Israel dol as a nation Israeli manu Israel nation ishor laga nation ase itu ke moi support grase holibi itu karni itia Israeli laga government ke support grubo ina na hoi Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ke support grubo ina na hoi ina tabra kose to tai as a true Christian tai tu pishi hosala kota kose apni bujibi Israel laga nation ke mon respect kore de morom kore de holibi tabra kodole moi Israel nation ke respect kore morom kore support kore holibi doesn't mean Israel laga aji laga government laga support grubo ina na hoi ishor bra Bible bra Israel laga government support group ko laga na hoi Israel laga BM ge support group ko na hoi ina tabra ko ase to done moi Israel ge support kure ase Israel ge moi morom kure Israel nation ge itu Benjamin Netanyahu na ole Israel laga government ge na hoi itu takpi ta ko ase aru tabra ko ase moi judi Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against the jaise ole aru tabra kumba kalat gura thik na ina awas ase ole moi bad Christian hoi jai moi bia Christian moi phal Christian na hoi itu takpi tai hudes tabra ko ase America laga president na ole America government politicians kan ge dole freely awas otha ole bar hole bi ulda Israel laga government na ole BM ge dai question gurishe gole tai bia Christian nishna Christian manu han baby sai itu takpi tai bose
If Bibi Netanyahu does something I don't like, and if I criticize it, am I like a bad Christian?
Absolutely not.
What I find strange is that we're able to criticize the American government sometimes in the Christian world with more freedom than the Israeli government.
Right.
To be pro-Israel means you believe in the nation of Israel, not necessarily the government of Israel.
Sure.
And I think those two different things. For example, when Joe Biden was president, you and I we loved America, but we detested our government.
Yeah.
And those two things beautifully coexisted.
Yeah, you never once said, "Hey, I'm out on
America."
On America.
Of course,
right.
Opposite.
Exactly.
What they don't want is they don't want to be called bad Christians if they challenge a foreign government, which is what happens so often. You're a bad Christian if you have a question about a foreign government.
Right.
That creates backlash that I don't think people understand.
तो आपने सब वीडियो दिखी छे ताइब्रा कोन एकता देवी ताइ कला दिखी छे ना होई ताइब्रा को सब होसाइ गोसे Holibi itia Israel government aro Israel laga opode aro idu Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu laga opode ituan taibra kwala dole manhan luigena conspiracy theory phelaise Charlie Kirk bra tai murwale phale dole Israel against ashe iduani poila Israel ge support gu thagina tai Israel against the kotha gwa shuru hwa nimle ta la mukbon grise Israel bra gona holibi du mishe ase tai gwa dole tai laga view tai laga morum support do change wane khali daira ki hosa ase itu hi goise aro idu nishna dunia prode felabshire Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu khuda ena clarification debole lagise itu misha ase gona idu Israel ge punam gole khojus kwa laga misha mishi conspiracy theory felaise gona clarification dishe aro khud Charlie Kirk bra me monade dage leader khan likya Israel ge dage man morum gore support gore itu alabi Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu bra kwa mabinge dikhai diase.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, and it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second. But I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing it's not only insane. I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of it.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this: Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Dobden hunishe clearly khud Israeli PM bra Charlie Kirk bra ta laga policy ta la government agise kumba gola against gola ase hulbi moi iku piana bana accept grise taira ta laga suggestions dia kotha kwadole sob ta la heart debra hosa phal bhavna thaina gola ase gona ina kwase to idu sabawose ajila video emanda thaise agali phujur 5 baji Saturday phujur 5 baji de Charlie Kirk ye tribute kura laga ekta special video hai ase bishilamba ase video dole idwane apne phujur de saile phalowo apne na oche dam de kam de ko na ja dam de tai hosabra ishor manu thagishena nai Jesus laga messenger ishor laga messenger thagishena nai hosa Christian thagishena nai hosa Christian nimde fight kura manu thagishena nai Charlie Kirk hosabra kun thagishi kun asi apne agali video saise bole janebo idwane moi request kuru apnge full video sabi lamba holibi Charlie Kirk laga movie nishna tai dunia de tharam de tai kinaga manu thaishi aro Jisu nimide ishor nimide tai kina fight ku thaishi aro Christian nimide kina fight ku thaishi apne tare clearly change ajila video mana thaishi next video de log korbo